today, September 10th, 2021. President Biden has openly declared war on the unvaccinated. Not only has he declared war, but he has basically created a wedge, or is trying to create a wedge between those that are vaccinated and those that are not vaccinated. In his address, he clearly states unequivocally that the nation has lost its patience with the unvaccinated. Kind of what like Democrats have always done in the past, creating a wedge between blacks and whites and Hispanics and Asians. They do this in order to create an environment of fear, distrust. So what I'd like to do is play for you a certain segment of his address and discuss it with you. I'll give you my analysis, which of course you all know is my opinion. But if you research the facts and you're a critical thinker, more than likely you'll see that my opinion has basis for my concern and bringing this out to you. So here we go.
My message to unvaccinated Americans is this: what more is there to wait for? What more do you need to see? We've made vaccinations free, safe, and convenient. The vaccine is FDA approval. Over 200 million Americans have gotten at least one shot. We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us. So please do the right thing. But just don't take it from me. Listen to the voices of unvaccinated Americans who are lying in hospital beds, taking their final breath saying, if only I'd gotten vaccinated.
Joe Biden has a flair for the dramatics. He must have majored in one of the colleges that he has mentioned in his career. The truth is, this is fear-mongering at its best. Not only is he speaking on behalf of the nation, but he is purporting that the vaccinated are fed up. This is far from the truth, folks. But yet we allow ourselves to be hoodwinked by this commander in incompetence. The fact is that the unvaccinated are not flooding the hospitals because of the COVID infection. Not at all. Please, walk to your local hospital. If I were given permission to film and do a live telecast in the hospitals, I would show it to you, because I frequent hospitals quite a bit. And this is just an outright lie. It's an outrage that the president would stoop to fear-mongering. But it's no wonder, because that's what Democrats do. At least the far left-leaning socialist Democrats do. So President Joe Biden has decided, taking it upon himself, through presidential decree, to have the Department of Labor mandate to businesses, employers of 100 or more employees to get vaccinated, or at least to prove that they are fully inoculated. But if not, that the employees would have to provide weekly updates that they're not infected. So if this is not the pathway to tyranny, then I don't know what is. This is definitely President Joe Biden overreaching. This administration has demonstrated time and time again, since taking office, of how disastrous and dangerous his policies, his administration's policies, are to this country. If you recall, January 20th, 2021, this president, through executive order, halted the building of the wall in our southern borders. Now, keep in mind that the wall had already been paid for under the Trump administration, so he decided that it would no longer take place. So all that money that went into building the wall, all that equipment that sits there at our southern border, is not to be used. So that is money that is now wasted. Thank you, Joe Biden. Another Christmas gift given to, in this case, illegal immigrants or illegal aliens, which I was really going to say. I'm not going to mince my words. But the truth is that in this address by President Joe Biden, he clearly is creating a wedge between the unvaccinated and the vaccinated. A sort of racism, if you think about it. I mean, the Democrats are pretty good at telling the nation that Hispanics, Asians, blacks, and whites have issues, that racism exists. But instead of taking the mantle of trying to do something about it, all they do is create an environment of mistrust and hate for one another, while Democrats and the Biden administration sit back and watch it play out. So we are their puppets, and they are the puppeteers. Or at least I'm not. So, quite clearly, Joe Biden is headed down a path of a tyrannical dictatorship. I say that because the Constitution protects your rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Within those rights is your right to choose what you can do with your body, what you can put into your body with respect to medications, vaccinations, those things. But if he mandates it, and he had said in this address prior, and I didn't play that clip, but I can, in which he says, this is not about freedom. Yes, it is, folks. He's blindsiding you, and he is overreaching, trying to control us. Let's look again at other disasters that this administration has caused, and he wants us to trust him. What about the Keystone Pipeline? He closed it down. Why? Why? Because we became energy independent. We were no longer dependent on Saudi oil. Well, that would be a logical reason, but in reality, he did it despite the last administration, the Trump administration. That's why he did it. As soon as he came into office, he had executive orders issued repealing some of the important policies that the Trump administration put in place. But I'm getting off my storyline. The fact is that with this administration now leveraging the Department of Labor onto businesses and employers, one has to wonder why then, if this is going to be a mandate to certain industries, why is there an exclusion for the United States Postal Service? Because obviously the postal workers, they travel around the country, but the mandate does not apply to them. Why is that, Joe? I'm not undercutting what our mail carriers do. It's a difficult job, obvious, but they too are exposed to the public. They too have the potential to spread the virus. But that doesn't seem to be a concern. And the reason why is because his narrative is false. He's trying to fake you out. So he's targeting the unvaccinated and telling the nation that we're frustrated and that our patience has run out. What a prick. How can a person that is in the seat of in the seat of authority of the president can come out and publicly proclaim such nonsense? And you damn right, I am angry, as you should be. You need to start reaching out to your politicians. You need to start voicing your opinion. If it requires us to become activists and march on Washington to tell them that we oppose these mandates, then that's what we need to do. But to create an executive order to mandate it on people who probably have a natural immunity if they were infected prior to the vaccine. The point is that you cannot suspend this Constitution on your whim, on the whim of leftist socialist Democrats. Because the truth is, if there are 80 million people there who are resisting the need to get vaccinated, is because there's a lot of mistrust. And he talks about misinformation. Yeah, the misinformation that comes out of the White House, that comes out of the Biden administration. There's the misinformation. You have someone like Dr. Anthony Fauci, who I had mentioned in a previous podcast, the architect of the coronavirus cover-up. That's your advisor. And you expect the people to trust you? You're a collaborator in his lies. You still have him as your medical advisor. And he's a downright liar. He lied during congressional hearings. That, hey, you're the president, right? You're Big Joe Biden. You know, take off your gloves, let's go out to the back and duke it out, Biden, right? You're a fool. I have no respect for this administration. Quite clearly, as you can hear in my tone and in my narrative, because when a president or an administration decides that they're going to mandate what you're going to do with your body, when it's protected by the Constitution, when millions of lives have been lost protecting our freedoms, you're just going to suspend it? It doesn't work that way. And then, of course, he's agitated even further because there are politicians, governors around the country that are filing lawsuit against this mandate. Obviously, those politicians that are fighting it are in trouble, but they need our support. They need to know that there are people in this nation that still believe in the Constitution, that still believe that we have to hold the president and his administration in check and accountable. But to sit there and incite a possible civil war amongst the vaccinated and unvaccinated, I can't believe that this is the 21st century and this is happening. This is a Stalinistic style government that's infringing on our rights and trying to deceive us. Haven't we had enough deception with the August 31st pullout of Afghanistan that was dictated to this administration by the Taliban? And not only that, we're cozying up with this terrorist organization. In fact, we still have Americans that are being held hostage in Afghanistan, but you don't hear that in the news. The focus of this presidency is to erode your civil liberties, and to gain more power over you, to scare you. But I implore you, resist, text, email, call the White House, your politicians that represent your state. Reach out. It's time for us to get back to 1776, in which people were involved with the creation and development of our government, our policies, and rules. We are a self-governed nation. That means that the people choose to be governed, but the people choose representatives to create laws that benefit us and protect our rights, not to allow a dictatorship to reside in the White House, not to allow a dictatorship to tell us, the citizens, what to do with respect to our bodies. Now, granted, we are in a state of emergency with the pandemic, but like I had mentioned, go to your local hospital and see. Go to the nursing homes and see if what he's saying is truthful. But bringing these two groups of the unvaccinated and the vaccinated at odds with each other is almost like inciting a civil war amongst ourselves. And then, of course, if that happens, the next step to tyranny will be imposing martial law upon us. And then those of us that are unvaccinated will be whisked away to internment camps to be forcefully inoculated. And you say, oh, that's conspiracy theory. It is not. Go back to what happened when the Japanese citizens, right, or the American citizens with a Japanese background were forced to go into internment camps. Now, these were citizens that had sworn an oath, that pledged allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and they were forced into internment camps. Why? Because that government also incited something very similar to what President Joe Biden is doing now. Fear-mongering. I think enough is enough, folks. I think it's time for us to, like I said, get back to 1776 and start dictating terms to our government, to our politicians. I will always say this to you. They work for you, for us. We, the people. That's who they work for. We don't work for them. I don't have to remind you. And Joe Biden also said that what's at stake here is not freedom. It's far from the truth. It is. Once you allow the government to dictate what you can do with your body, what's to stop them from doing anything else? What's to stop them from telling you you can't have kids? They do that in China. Oh, that's right, I forgot. Joe has a very good relationship with China. So, is that the direction that we're going? You can't count on politicians like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, AOC, Maxine Waters to do anything for you, even though these are people that have been put into their seats of authority because they made campaign promises. What were the campaign promises that Joe Biden told you, the nation, before he became president? Especially with regard to COVID-19. He said it wasn't necessary for us to be mandated to get inoculated. Didn't he? Has he kept his promise? Oh, again, let me remind you, as of September 6, 2021, the reporting of those American hostages, right? Didn't he promise to get them out? But no. He's in negotiations with a terrorist organization, allowing them to dictate terms on the release. So, what I'm telling you, folks, is that what you're seeing is us being led into a new system of government in which we no longer have a president, we have a dictator, and a senile dictator at best. And we're sitting back and doing nothing. History is about to repeat itself. History is about to see the unfolding of the new way of life in which the government will now dictate what you do, in which the government can take away your property, in which the government has enslaved you. And I'm pretty sure some of you are thinking, oh, this is a conspiracy theory. It is not a conspiracy theory if it's unfolding in front of you. I can play the entire address if you'd like. And you can hear his narrative, his false narratives with respect to the scientific facts regarding the exposure of COVID-19 to some people, the effects, and some of the unvaccinated who have been exposed and survived and built that natural immunity. You're being led to believe that the vaccines have no side effects, that they're safe. Maybe there's a 1% chance that something will happen to you. But are you willing to take the risk of you or your family or your children being that 1% that's being affected by that vaccine? Would you be willing to do that? I had somebody on my podcast who said that there's 2.86% likelihood that there can be a side effect from getting inoculated against the coronavirus. But he also clearly stated that he wouldn't want to be that percentage that could be affected by it. So I'm asking you, folks, I've provided something to think about for all you critical thinkers out there, for all of you that are just sitting back. You need to become patriots, become activists, get involved in the government, in policing them. We were a nation born of Christian principles and a self-governing rule. And during that process, people were involved. Of course, there were no distractions like we see nowadays from the media, from politicians, from TV and radio. They didn't have those kind of distractions. And we do now. And we have become so complacent in our comfort zone that everything else doesn't matter. But the truth is, your freedoms are at risk. And having a mandate shoved down your throat, which if you don't take it, there's a possibility that you'll lose your job, lose your means of feeding your family because you don't believe in it. Maybe you have a religious belief that you feel strongly about that will not allow you, you just don't want to do it because it goes against your belief. And again, what about the exceptions or the exemptions of those industries that are not required to get the vaccine? So if this pandemic, if he's so concerned about this pandemic, then shouldn't it be everybody across the board, no exceptions? Isn't that something to think about? Doesn't he contradict himself quite a bit? Even in his opening address, he was telling the nation that he was okay with the mask, the social distancing. And then he works his way into, hey, we're tired of this. You're killing, people in our country because you choose to be unvaccinated. If that's not fear mongering, I don't know what is. And if you're asleep at the wheel of your individual lives, you're going to get a rude awakening when you crash into that wall called reality. And the reality is President Joe Biden and his administration need to cease and desist this nonsense of mandates and start working to unite the nation. Yes, and objectively look at alternative means for people who don't want to get vaccinated. Because while it's okay for the administration to make billionaires of the pharmaceutical companies that have created these vaccines, there are also alternatives that have existed for 20 years or more that have shown proof as an alternative to the vaccination, like ivermectin. As a matter of fact, some of you know Joe Rogan, right? The podcaster, the one that has stake with the UFC brand. Okay, well, he was infected with COVID-19 and he opted to get ivermectin, right? And he's good. It's good to go. But this mandate will basically say to him that he needs to get inoculated with the pharmaceutical vaccine. Because clearly, not only are the pharmaceutical companies making money, but those kickbacks that they give to their politicians on behalf of the lobbyists, it's making them rich too. Aren't you tired of this subversive behavior by your government? Aren't you tired of them lying to you and eroding your civil liberties? If you are, do something about it. But if you're not, I'm going to tell you like I always tell you, wake up, America. Wake up. Good night.